Alrighty guys, hello. Today we're going to be continuing with essay review, and instead of reviewing the five Ivy League accepted level of essays, we're going now to 7. So this is an essay that got into 7 schools. Without further ado, I'm just going to jump straight to it. Read the essays that got a high school senior into 7 Ivy League schools. Luke Kenworthy, 17, was nervous on Ivy Day, the last Thursday in March, when all 8 schools dropped their admission decision. He had already received a rejection from MIT, was waitlisted by UChicago and Carnegie Mellon University, and was deferred at Harvard University after applying early. Oof. So he had a rough start. If you, I'll provide the links and you can read through all the details here. But I was just wanted to point out that I'm glad that they introduced some of the other details, because he didn't get in outright. He got waitlisted to a couple schools, and that's going to be the reality. You're going to run into a lot of cases where you might there's a I think it's pretty common to see parents and students overreact when they get their waitlist or when they get their early results. So, for example, what I mean by that is, let's say you're getting waitlisted to Carnegie Mellon. Oh my gosh, that means I'll have zero chance of getting to any Ivy League school because they're ranked usually 10 ranks higher. That's usually the overreaction that I see. Once you are competitive enough and capable of applying for top 20 schools, any of the top 20 can waitlist you or reject you for whatever reason. There is no direct correlation. So it's a good to see that I start off with an example where he's an example of how a student may have started off slow, a little cold with the early application results, but then obviously ramped it up in the regular and got into 7 Ivy League schools. Let's just jump straight into the essay. Here we go. The soft thumping of my dad's heart provided a small degree of solace as I cried with my head on his chest. I was in 5th grade. He had just told me that my mom, having been attacked by her boyfriend, was in the hospital. I remember being surprised with myself, surprised that I would be sad after all she had done. This was the same person who, when I was 8, threw a drunken party at our house for teens younger than I am now. This was the same person who would disappear after spending nights at the bar. The person who went to jail for trying to strangle my dad in an inebriated stupor. She had not been a part of my life for over a year since my dad received sole custody. I thought I had closure, that I was ready to move on. Yet hot tears still ran down my cheek as I imagined her swollen face and the bruises on her arms. So right away you can tell that this is not going to be your typical essay. There's going to be a lot more drama, a little bit more of the socioeconomic extenuating circumstance tags. You also, but the writing style is really strong. I feel like he's creating the ambiance, building the narrative, using semicolons. I'm paying attention to those little touches of detail that tells me that he is a well-oiled writer. He is a strong communicator. And that's really what you want to convey right off the bat to an admission officer, to an admission reader. I had always been shy as a kid, and the absence of my mom exacerbated this problem as I tried to unhealthily suppress my insecurities and fill her absence with others' approval. In 6th grade, I constantly sought the attention of a group of kids who in turn bullied me. Consequently, when I switched schools going into 7th grade, I was shy and timid, afraid to engage with new people. I pictured myself near the bottom of a rigid social hierarchy. The next year, I started to branch out more, but inside, I remained obsessed with how others perceived me. So, getting a little bit more into the EQ, emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, social community awareness. I like how he's not getting too pity, sob story, pity me, boo-hoo, right? He's straddling the line pretty well here. He's articulating that it was difficult, but he's not going so far as to make me feel like he's complaining or whining about it necessarily. And so that's a key thing. Don't sound like you're whiny. Don't sound like you're dramatic, overly pitying. Entering high school, I would spend hours at a time thinking about my insecurity and talking through memories of my mom with my dad. During this time, I would always remember how I had stared numbly into the ripples of my dad's shirt as a 5th grader. Oh my gosh, I love the texture and the detail. That moment of memory there. Oof. Really love those little introspective, reflective memories. Super important details that just add color, add weight to what you're revealing. Students, these are the kinds of details that sometimes are so, they're just so not what you expect to be writing. The ripples of my dad's shirt, just stared numbly into the ripples of my dad's shirt. I just thought that was really interesting. Very unique texture. I can never forget that feeling of helplessness, but with repeated reflection, I began to understand this moment in a different way. Turning point, growth point, here we go. Given her circumstances, raised by an abusive alcoholic father and a neglectful mother, involved in several dysfunctional relationships with controlling men, drinking to numb the injustices of life, but then realizing it was too late to stop, I have no way of knowing if my life would be any different from hers. So this is getting very, what I'd call, some people might assume it to be like left-leaning, liberal, social, those kinds of tones are coming up. And I got to be honest with you, I feel like if you're going to apply for top tier schools, you got to show that you don't see just black or white, good versus bad, right? I think a part of liberal education that often gets kind of made fun of for the wrong way, let's say from like the right side, is this notion that there needs to be a greater depth of understanding the complexities that lead someone to live a certain way that they live their life. Um, I think this is a great showcase of that. Another way of me thinking, kind of explaining this paragraph is I feel like this student would fit perfectly into almost every Ivy League first year class. I think like almost every single Ivy League school offers a first year class where you go into these like social studies, holistic social studies, these left leaning, thinking about socioeconomic factors, poverty traps, things of that kind of nature. So when I'm reading this already being kind of digested and understood by the student here, I'm getting really good vibes. I'm getting high level of EQ, social intelligence. For the first time, I began to understand an idea that has since granted me freedom, oof. I cannot walk in my mom's shoes, and thus no one else can truly walk in mine. I like that juxtaposition. I love the colon use. I love the strong statement that comes out right here. Guys, this is so good. This type of moment in the essay where you just come off and do a 180 from all the pity or the sadness or the drama. The way others perceive me is inherently inaccurate, so I do not need to concern myself with what others think. This realization provided me the freedom to become untethered from the approval of others, finally at ease with myself. I started to open up. Throughout high school, I began talking to others about ideas that fascinated me, like space travel and philosophy, rather than frantically searching for common ground. I quit football, realizing that I largely participated for the status it brought me, and joined cross country because I genuinely enjoyed running. I started holding the door open for my classmates almost every morning, greeting them as they arrived at school, hoping to brighten their day. I became engaged in my role on student council, which paid off when I was elected student body president. Even then, it wasn't the role itself that I found meaningful, but the way I could use it to help others. The basis of my friendships shifted from validation seeking to mutual, genuine respect. So the EQ really coming off here. I really like the EQ development. Um, the growth. This is like the metamorphosis moment where like they come out of their cocoon and they're much more socially engaged and more importantly more genuine, right? So he's mentioning things he stopped being fake, and then he has a chance to reveal what makes him real, what he genuinely enjoys, such as running. Notice how there's no real hard major flexing going on. There's a lot of resume flexing. See this right here, the role of student council in the student body. But he immediately deflects away from the issue of just resume flexing by mentioning the reflection of it, the reflection of what he realized he can do more of as a president rather than the title itself, and saying, look at me. So I really like this paragraph. Students, if you're watching this, you got to be paying attention to like these two paragraphs that we just finished reading. The turning point, the clarity, the follow through, the application, the range. As I listened to my dad's heartbeat that night, my mind filled with anger and sorrow. Circularity, see how he started off with that essay? Thumping, dad's heart, comes back to the end. Sometimes, like, I've read it so much and I've recommended circularity, the intro and then the conclusion kind of coming back full circle. I've recommended that so much that sometimes to me I feel like it could be a little cliche. But honestly, in this case here, I thought this was very smooth. So circularity is a good technique. Don't just use it for all of your essays, though. Use it for maybe one. Otherwise, it becomes very predictable. However, in hindsight, I am thankful for the lessons I learned from my mother. The pain I felt was a necessary step in the process of becoming the person I am today, someone who is unafraid to express himself. The unafraid to express myself kind of theme is a little cheesy, right? But I think because cliche is not what you say, it's how you say it. Because this student pre-filled it with all of this stuff, the pain that is necessary, the lessons you learned from your mom, right? And then ending with not being afraid to express myself. I think that's fine. If you just write, I am someone who's unafraid to express myself, then it gets really cheesy right away. So cliche is not what you say, it's how you say it, how you introduce it, how you build the words around it, I think. And that's part of how you play this game of writing college essays, because the truth is that a lot of this is cliche, and it's just a matter of how you say it, how you personalize it, that creates a bit more flavor for readers to pick you out through. Overall, I thought this essay was fantastic. I think the first and foremost kind of, if I showed this to a student, do you know what a student would say? They'd be like, but Jay, my mom is not a drunkard. My parents are super clean. You know, we live in a cul-de-sac and there's no drama. There's no anything like this. And I had to think about kind of students saying that, because for me, the truth of the matter is some people will have life experiences that are just going to be way more optimal, way more stronger for college essays. And this is a case in point. I'm not obviously asking, therefore, for you to wish upon yourself in ninth and 10th grade some sort of family tragedy. Obviously not, okay? And that's also the point to make, that leaning on looking for tragedy to 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 sell your story, I think also it could lead to its own problems. It could be potentially shallow as well. Um, so for students who feel they finished reading this and they're feeling, but Jay, I don't have a dramatic story like this. Unfortunately, that means you're put to a higher calling. You're gonna have to write an essay more like the Costco essay, I would assume. So if you haven't watched the video before, the Costco essay feels to me a lot more bright, spunky. Um, doesn't require a tragedy. This one is deep, introspective, personal, and powerful. Both styles work. Both styles will get into good schools. But I would argue that this one showed me so much more personal hardship. So let's say you had two students that are equal in every aspect, grades, test scores, activities. But then this person's story is is more dramatic, and it shows like a greater challenges to get to all those good results, good grades and test scores. In that case, this kind of student is going to have an advantage. So if you're a student right now, if you can try to think of what along your path was a challenge that others might not experience. And from that life challenge, what do you learn? What have you learned about yourself, or what you value, and who you want to be? Not in terms of career necessarily, but who you want to be for others, who you want to be for yourself, right? How genuine you want to be about the sports you want to play, things of that nature. If you can develop more stories like that, you can pull off a strong ethos. Otherwise, going with the spunky, fun, going with the burst of personality, the creative, genuine thinking, like the Costco essay would be the alternative here. Yeah, I hope that this was helpful. If you need anything, or if you guys want to request or want to submit any essays that you want me to review personally, feel free. But yeah, I'll leave it at that for today. Thank you so much. Until next time on Monday. Ciao.